had on my slide, he loved Rachel more, and because of Jeff's comments last time, I put the question marks out there. Here's that he didn't love Leah at all, based on her comments about the son she had. So this gets into the children then. Leah has 4. Rachel gives her handmaid for 2, Bilhah. Then Leah gives her handmaid for 2, Zilpah. Then Leah has 2 more, and then Rachel has 2, only one of which we have now. So this is the sons in the order of their birth. So just learn those when we're little, kids. So those. So he's been there 14 years, and he's ready to leave and go back. But Laban wants him to stay longer. He pleads him to stay. So he negotiates some more wages here. And what they decide to do is all the flocks that are born with spots or speckles or discolorations of whatever kind will be Jacob's. That'll be very clear, easy to distinguish which ones are which. So they go through the flock, take all the ones that are that way now, the spotty ones out, move them away. So that Jacob has just the white ones left to maintain there for Laban. So that after all the other time that goes on then, they can tell which ones are which. Well, through this methods of imagination or what, as he strips the bark off of the different plants and makes the goats and the rams have various colored spots, speckled things more. Jacob is greatly blessed by the Lord. So the last verse on the slide there kind of ends up last time. It's really, really important to think about what he had now when he starts to leave, which we're going to see next here. So think about it. He's exceedingly prosperous, large flocks, female and male servants, camels and donkeys. So he's got lots and lots of stuff he's accumulated there while he's in Padan Aram. So when he gets ready to leave, which is what we're going to take off next here, think about all this large group that's got to go with all these flocks and herds and the people that's involved with it there. So he decides it's time to leave. Laban's sons, we're getting into chapter 31 now. Laban's sons are ill toward him. They see him as doing what? What is he getting from them? All the best of everything, and he getting what should have been theirs, the inheritance and stuff like this. So they get ill toward him. And Laban's attitude has changed even toward him now. He doesn't feel that toward him like he was back earlier in the relationship here. But the big thing that got him to leave was what? Who told him to leave? God did, okay? God appears to him in a dream and tells him to go back to his father's land. Now, why would it be important for him to go back to the land of Canaan? That's the promised land. It's the inheritance. It's been promised to give to him and his descendants. So go back to it there. That's where the inheritance is going to be. So God appears to him in a dream, tells him to go back. So he calls his 2 wives, Leah and Rachel, to come out in the fields and meet him and he's going to talk to him about this. So he recounts to them, to the 2 wives, all what's happened, how he's been blessed by the Lord, and how Laban has turned against him. He's changed his wages 10 times, he says. He's trying to mix things up into which combination of the flocks he'll get. And so it just adds to that then that God's appeared to him and tells us to go back. So now he's got to get a reaction from them. What are they going to do? So they look at it and they say, what's left here for us? There's no reason for us to stay here this anymore because there's no inheritance for us here. So they say, we'll go with him. We will leave and we will go. Now, they've been there 20 years now since Jacob first arrived. So it's been a long time here. But their willingness to go with him, this verse popped back in my mind. We looked at several times here. They're going to leave their father and go with their husband, which they should do here. So he gets together, his wives, his son, his livestock, all these possessions, and he's ready to leave and take off. Now, he's not going to make breakneck speed with that kind of crowd going. Small animals, nursing animals. Laban is 3 days away shearing sheep. So he gets a 3-day head start on Laban. And Rachel, to add little insult to it here, steals her father's household idols to take with her. So after the word gets to Laban, they have left. He goes to pursue them. Takes him 7 days to catch up with them. But on the way, God appears to Laban. Yeah. I don't know what Laban went to do on his way there. He was upset about them leaving. He was upset about taking the wives and his daughters and his grandchildren away from him. I don't really know what he had intended to do when he met Jacob. Jacob was obviously afraid because of it. But the Lord appears to him and says, don't you do what? Don't say anything good or bad. You just go meet him. Just go meet him essentially and tell your family goodbye, and that's it. Don't cause any kind of any stir, either good or bad. So when Laban catches up with him then, he says, why'd you run off? Why'd you leave? Why'd you take my daughters and why'd you take my grandchildren and just up and leave without saying goodbye? Well, Jacob says, I was afraid to. Now, think back now. What's the relationship that Laban and Jacob have at this time? Not exactly too good, okay? Not exactly too good. His sons have turned against him. Laban's attitude's changed about him, so it's not the best relationship. So he thinks in leaving, he stays around and asks, can I leave? It's not going to be a pretty scene. So he leaves. Maybe he says, I was afraid of what you might do. So I left there. Now, that'd be bad enough. But now Laban introduces this other little caveat to it here. He says, well, leaving's one thing. But why'd you have to steal my gods? Why'd you have to steal my idols to take with you? Now, what did Jacob know about that? Nothing. Okay. So much so that he promised what? If you find it, whoever's got it will die. Okay. And those rash promises we see lots of times. So he says, search them. Search them. Now, think about this a minute. Here's Laban called up with his family, with his daughter and his grandchildren, and he accuses them of stealing his idol. That'd be something on its own, just to accuse your own family of stealing from you here. But what's Laban fixing to do? Jacob tells him to search and look for it. If you find it, whoever's going to get it is going to die. So what does Laban literally do? He goes in their tents, one by one, right? And he searches through their things, looking for it. Has the relationship really gone bad? It's gotten pretty bad here. If he literally is going to go plow through all their possessions trying to find this idol. There's no trust at all there, seems to me. So he searches. And Rachel has them in her saddlebag. She doesn't get up. And so he comes out and doesn't find them. So Jacob then uses that, again, not knowing that they've been stolen even at this point, to rebuke Laban and say, here you are accusing us of all these things, stealing your idols, and whatever you got, bring them out here and set it before us. Tell us what you found, and we'll let people decide here what's going on. So Laban's got a bunch of men with him. Of course, Jacob's got his people there with him. Bring them out in the middle of us here, and let's see what happens. Well, nothing there to bring out. Of course, Rachel had the idols all along. So the relationship then, they say, okay, we can't depart like this. So they decide to make a covenant between the two of them. They prepare meals, they set up stones, markers there, and eventually wind up saying, you won't cross this point. You will go past this monument to do me harm, and I won't come past the other way to do you harm. It's like a imaginary border-like thing, this monument they set up. They won't go back and forth. So they're going to depart in pieces what it comes down to. So Laban returns in turn to go home. That's kind of the end of the relationship between Jacob and Laban. Very fearful when he left of what would happen when he did leave. And then once Laban caught up with him, even more fearful of what he might do to him then. Of course, the whole idol situation came in there. It made it even more difficult. But then it all ends up with a peaceful covenant there that we won't bother one another. However, Jacob's problems are just beginning. He got that one out of the way, the departure from Laban. But now in chapter 32, what's he got next to face? Esau. Well, why is that a problem? I'm going to kill him. Last time they saw each other, which was 20 years ago, okay? Keep that in mind. It's been 20 years have passed. But that time when they left, Esau was going to kill him. That was his last threat that he knew about. I will kill you. Huh? So he sends a messengers to Esau that Jacob is coming. Messengers come back with what kind of message? Esau is coming, but not by himself. What's he got? 400 men with him, okay? Now, what kind of army has Jacob got with him? Servants, a few servants, young children, a lot of flocks to look after. Not going to be a very good battle here. Esau, 400 men coming to face Jacob. So Jacob is quite concerned over the situation with Esau coming, with the threat that's out there. So he divides up his company and he puts 2 camps out there and said if Esau finds one and gets it, then the other will be left. Maybe one half will survive there. He splits them up there, kind of as a defensive type thing when Esau's supposed to be coming. This is the big thing he does. It's the big thing he does. As we get into the things we're going to talk about here at the end a little bit, go back a minute and think about when Jacob left home to start with. He stops at Bethel. What kind of relationship did he get with God there at Bethel? Covenants repeated, vowed to follow God, whatever. Who appeared to him at Padan Aram to tell him it's time to leave? The Lord did there. So when he comes back now, he's in a relationship where he prays to God here for deliverance from Esau. So keep those 3 or 4 things in mind. We'll add a couple more to it here to go through there. So he prays to God for deliverance from Esau. And then he starts setting up this present situation. We'll talk about that as we get into it too. But he starts putting out these in groups, droves it's called here, of gifts to Esau. And there's a significance about those gifts, but Andrew's going to read here verses 13, 14, 15, along in there somewhere, chapter 32, and listen now. Think about what's moving down this. When Jacob and his people are moving along with all these flocks, this is only the portion he's going to take out and give to Esau. You can imagine what else he's got left. So listen to this list of stuff he sends to Esau here. Go ahead, Andrew.
So he stayed there that night, but he had taken with him Esau 200 female goats, 20 male goats, 200 ewes, and 20 rams, 30 milking hens in their packs, 40 cows and bulls, 20 female donkeys, and 10 cattle.
Nice farm. Just have that. All those animals. But that's just what he took out to give them. We don't know what he had left. Obviously, quite a bit. So that's what he's going to send to Esau, row by row. And what's he tell the messengers to do? As you meet Esau, tell him what? These are a gift from your servant Jacob. He's coming along behind. Here's a gift for you. And it's at least 3 different sets of those people going out there with those gifts. Jacob gets his people all across the Jabbok River. Let's see. I think that's next, Jeff. Let's look at a couple of slides here a minute. All right. Beersheba would be down off the bottom of the map down here. So when he left, he came up here to Luz or Bethel. He goes on up across the Euphrates up here to Padan Aram. Now coming back, they come through the country of Gilead here, this area here. And there are 4 of these rivers. There's a Jabbok here. That's the Yarmuk, the Jabbok, the Arnon, and down at the bottom of the sea here's the Zered. There's 4 of these little rivers that come into to the Jordan Basin here. This one's the Jabbok here. This kind of the valley they're going to walk down through, come in through here. Mizpah is where Laban and Jacob met when they had their covenant and part of the country. Bob, his book, thinks Mizpah may be more up in Gilead instead of down this far on the map here. So it's unknown. This is the question mark out here to where it really is. But then this is the area up here where he's going to send them across the Jabbok. And when he has the encounter with the wrestling, we'll get to that in a minute. Get these things kind of in mind. The Jabbok River is going to come in through here. Then he's going to come across and then down through the Jordan Valley here. Whoops. And up and come down. And another, again, this little valley to go through down through here. These are all mountains down through here. A little valley here that comes back down to Shechem. That's where we're going to wind up. So kind of get the map in mind here. Now, this is the picture of the Jabbok River that comes in there about that territory. So you see the mountain chain up here. Why you wouldn't walk across this? Why you would go through these valleys as you travel around here to over the top of all these mountains with all this herd and people you've got traveling with you. Go down through the valley areas to walk there. So he sends everybody across the Jabbok here. And he's on the other side by himself. So what happens that night while he's after everybody's gone across the river except Jacob? A man appears to him and he fights with him. Now, it's really more than just a man, okay? But they seem to wrestle all night and no one can prevail. He winds up touching Jacob's hip, causing a problem there with the nerve in it. And he says, Jacob asks him, tell me your name. Tell me who you are. And he doesn't want to tell him that. And there's commentaries here, reasons why. If it had a certain angel's name, would he put that in some high esteem or something like that? Reasons for that. But what does he do to Jacob's name then? Change his name to Israel. I'll get that again in a minute. It's going to appear a little later on. It happens again. God tells me his name to change to Israel. But here's where this angel man he wrestled with, changed his name to Israel. Now, when he's finished with that wrestling scene, what did he say? I have seen what? I've seen the face of God and have survived. Okay. I've seen the face of God and have survived. So he prepares then to meet Esau after this. Separates the wives of their children. Puts the handmaidens with their children first, then Leah with her children next, and finally at the back, Joseph and his mom, Rachel, the ones that would be his favorite. Joseph's about 6 years old, best we can tell at this time. Use some calculations, the Bible goes in his book. Look at the age there, but he was born about the time that he decided to stay in the land and work their last 6 years for Laban. So 6 years old, it's a bunch of young kids here running around. So after the different droves of gifts come up to Esau, finally they come up. The handmaids and their children bow down to him. And what does Jacob do as he approaches Esau? Bows down 7 times, okay, trying in every way he can to get on the good side of Esau, since Esau is threatening to kill it. What is Esau's reaction to the gift he sent to him? He'll give them back. Hey, I don't need these things here. And we'll talk about those words here for just in a minute. He doesn't need them. So he said, I've got enough. That's what Esau said. I don't need these. I've got enough. And then Jacob comes back and he talks to him a little bit more and he says, no, you keep them. I have enough. And there's a play on words of this word enough here. And we'll look at some slides of that just in a minute. Just notice the words of enough that Esau uses first and Jacob comes back with second there then. So after they find there's no strife between them, it's been a forgiveness type situation, it's like Esau then says, come on, I'll escort you. And he says, no, you can't do that because I've got the nursing flocks and I've got these little children. You're going back and I'll follow you down there. Let me leave some of my men here with you. But no, you don't need that either. I can take care of myself. I'll be fine. So they separate and go that way. Esau goes back down to Mount Seir, which is down at the bottom of the Dead Sea. And Jacob travels on to Succoth, which is on the map just a minute ago, builds apparently some pens and things there for his animals, stays there sometime, and then goes on to Beersheba and makes a purchase of land, and that's at the end of chapter 33 there. Okay, that's kind of through that part. We're going to talk about these words enough here in a minute. If I got anything else you want to pitch in here before we take off again? All right. Some of these two words enough in the way they're used here. Esau first says, for the gifts that are coming, I don't need them, I have enough. Esau has changed. A total reaction, different reaction than what Jacob had expected. Apparently the resentment was gone. He hugs him, falls on his neck, they embrace. So an obvious piece of forgiveness here on Esau's part. But when he says, I have enough, and we'll see it in a minute, he says, I have plenty. I got all I need. I got all the flocks I need. I got all the possessions I need. I don't need anything else. What Esau is basically saying. But there's a thing about these gifts. If you go back and look at the Eastern times, the times that were in play here. When you have an enemy like this and you send gifts to them, by accepting those gifts, they show their friendship. If they reject your gifts, then they are not over whatever's dividing you. They're not over that, and the division is still there. So it's very, very important to Esau and to Jacob that Esau accept these gifts. The gifts are received by your superior, otherwise the friendship's not there. Esau had to receive these in order for Jacob to count him as his friend and be back on a relationship with him. So when he said, I've got enough, I don't need these, that's a problem in that culture there. He's accepting for Jacob to feel like he is over this and forgiven him. So Genesis 33:9, Esau says, I have enough, keep what you have. What did he have at this point? He had peace with his brother, for one thing. Not only did he have enough flocks, but he had a relationship with his brother where he wasn't ready to kill him. He got over that apparently over this 20 years time frame here. And really that's greater than any possession you have, this relationship. Oftentimes in our families or extended families, there's rifts and problems that, and like this, they see the value of this relationship in the family here. But let's go back and think a little bit now about what's happened in the past. Talk about these relationships. 20 years earlier, go back to 20 years, we talked about that a little bit. What's the character of Esau 20 years ago? What's he like? The profane person, okay? Right there. Okay. He had despised his birthright. He was a profane person. Esau was. What did he know about marriage? Married the women from around there, and really, what's the kind of why we see because of it? Who did it upset? His parents. I almost like he did it for spite, okay, for them, because they were so concerned about that. So, backing up that, Esau, we'll get a couple slides about that in a minute. What's Jacob's character 20 years ago? What? A deceiver, exactly right. A deceiver and a liar. Think about that. All right. Here's Esau. Despised his birthright, a profane person, Hebrews calls it, hated Jacob and threatened to kill him. I will kill him. That's kind of what Esau's like. And then on the marriage situation, he took wives that were agreed to his parents, saw others later on there, and took them because they did not please his father Isaac. So a rebellious, profane person Esau was. So Jacob, deceiver, I'm your firstborn Esau. I've done like you said do. The hair on his arms. In fact, I asked him, are you my son Esau? And he says, I am. So what do you see here? Okay, excuse me, ain't neither one of them too good, right? That's 20 years ago. They both got major problems. Moving forward to today's time, how would you describe the two characters now? One's more mature spiritually. Okay, that's the exact point we're getting to. Esau has enough. He has plenty. He has all the flocks, all the possessions he needs. He's made peace with his brother. What did Jacob mean by the word enough he used? The word there means everything. So what did Jacob have is the question. What did one have that the other didn't have? One of them had God, okay? There's absolutely no evidence at all that Esau had any relationship with God. But think about what we talked about that Jacob did. As he went to Bethel, as he at Padan Aram, God spoke to him there. He came back, he wrestled with the angel, saw the God face to face there. Esau's coming, he prays to him there. He has now built a relationship with God. God made the promises to him. He's vowed to follow God. So there's a big difference between them from that standpoint. One has made a relationship with God, the other one hasn't. At least there's no evidence of any kind that he has. He made peace with his brother, that's great. But he's still missing something. So the question is, could Esau have been different? Could Jacob have continued in his deceit? Sure. It's all about repentance. It's about that change. That's what I'll get to here. Repentance. To change one's mind and purpose. Because you gain some knowledge, make some realizations. True repentance. A change of mind and purpose of life. And we get remission of sins because of it. So the big thing here is repentance and a change. They both changed. Just one didn't change enough. Change our purpose, change our mind, our life, the way we live. A change, make it for good. Repentance, a true sense of one's own guilt and sinfulness, and anticipation of God's mercy because of Christ. Here's the question. Well, a couple more slides. Sin, repentance, the actual hatred of sin and turning back it from God. And it's the good here. A persistent endeavor for a holy life and walking with God in the way he commands. I turn my life over to God. I changed from what I was doing, and now with God. But here's a question for us. We got about 5 minutes. I'd like to hear some comments about any of this. Why the difference? Why are they different, these two guys? What do? They made choices, both of them. We make choices. We choose our character. We choose our relationship to God. We choose if we're going to change. And we choose how much to change. So, I left you 5 minutes. Surely somebody's got a comment about all this. Yes, sir. Esau had changed. He didn't want to kill his brother anymore. He met him, and he didn't want his gifts, not because it refused his gifts. That's been a custom type thing there. But he didn't want them because he had plenty himself. He didn't need the gifts. He had matured enough to rebuild that relationship with Jacob there. So that's a great change on Esau's part. I'm not belittling that change at all. But the big difference I'm trying to get to between him and Jacob is, what had Jacob done? He built that relationship with God. That's a big difference in the two. Esau got over this hatred. This, I'm gonna kill you. For 20 years time lapse here. So we don't know whether it was hate him for 18 years and then gradually got over. Don't know whether when the word was sent that Jacob was coming, that was the reaction then. Somewhere though in that process though, Esau got over this thing and he got his heart right as far as Jacob's concerned. And that's the point that I was talking about over here. You can't take that burden of hatred with you forever and be successful. So Esau had made great progress, no doubt about that. I'm not trying to belittle that at all. It's just he did not have a relationship with God that Jacob did. It goes, and that's not the last skirmish between the two nations. The Edomites, Esau are the father of the Edomites, and they and Israel will have more battles for it's over here. Okay, anybody else? The city. As they left that, first they got back to Canaan. The city Succoth. They're going down to Shechem a little later on, but Succoth, the word means booths. They built apparently some places for the animals there, booths or pens or something like that. And the Feast of Tabernacles that the Jews still celebrate now. It's also called the Feast of Succoth. Booths, tabernacles. All right. Next time we get into 4, 5, 6, and 8, I think it is. 8's kind of an unusual chapter, story about Judah and his great mess he made, chapter 38. So read through those, and we'll pick them up next time.